As this year is coming to an end, I've taken some time to really reflect over the year that's been. And as I was reflecting, I wrote down some of the most valuable lessons that I will be taking with me. Now, I already knew some of these things, but they have been reinforced significantly and in a different way. So in this video, I wanted to share some of those lessons with all of you. The first lesson is 2 words that I have found to be really powerful, and they are try it. Here are some examples. Someone asks you to watch a sci-fi movie with them, but you don't like sci-fi, so you reject it. Someone you meet at an event says they love French pop music and that you should give it a go, but you're all about old school hip-hop, so you reject it. I don't like Mexican food. I don't like bowling. I could never travel alone. I don't look good in blue. The list goes on. We seem to think we know ourselves so well, that we know our preferences, that we know what we don't like, and we're so quick to make up our minds about things that seem foreign to us. But how many of these things have you actually given an honest chance? And when was the last time you tried it? 3 years ago? 10 years ago? Never? A lot of things can change in that time. I found this to be incredibly helpful for stimulating creativity and for getting to know myself, simply by thinking those 2 words whenever I am introduced to something that I feel resistance to. The second lesson is challenge your beliefs. This one goes kind of hand in hand with the previous one, but it refers more to your thoughts rather than your actions. If you always assume that you're right, and if you're not even open to listening to others and change your mind, you will never grow. Because in order to grow, you need to challenge your beliefs. You need to question them, and you need to let others question them as well. Whenever you're having an argument with someone, look for reasons to be wrong. There are so many great quotes on this, but I will share one. It's from George Bernard Shaw, who was an Irish playwright, and he said, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." Ask yourself, when was the last time you changed your mind about some fundamental belief? I read this story about John Maynard Keynes, and I'm not positive that it's true, but nonetheless, I do find it noteworthy. So supposedly, there have been some complaints against Keynes because he would often change his opinions and he would be seen as inconsistent. As he was being accused during a hearing by a critic, he responded and said, "When my information changes, I alter my conclusions. What do you do, sir?" The third one is change your self-comparison mindset. Earlier this year, I wrote a paper on comparing yourself to others. It's a huge topic and I found it to be really interesting. And then I read Jordan B. Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, where rule number 4 is
compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Yes.
Because you need to have a hierarchy of improvement. You need to be aiming for something. And that means you're going to be lesser than people who've already attained along that dimension.
Yes.
And that can give rise to envy. So the question is, who should you defeat in the final analysis? And the answer is you should defeat your former self. You should be constantly trying to do that. And you're the right control for yourself too, because you're the one who's had all your advantages and disadvantages. And so if you want to compete fairly with someone, then you should be competing with you.
Comparing yourself to others isn't always bad, and it's certainly inevitable. It's a trait that has existed for as long as humans have existed, so it's completely natural. However, when comparing ourselves demotivates us and makes us feel like less, that's problematic. The good news are, you can use comparison to your advantage. It's all about your mindset. A common situation is when you're at the gym and you feel so good and proud of yourself, and then suddenly someone who is very ripped and healthy walks in, and all of a sudden you don't feel good about yourself anymore. But the truth is, that person did not start off that way. They may have been going to the gym for years, working hard every day. You don't know their story. And in fact, their story is not even relevant to your story. You need to believe in the small steps that you are taking and trust its value, because this is your journey. I will link 2 studies in my description if you're interested in the topic of comparison. The third one is your path will change and that is okay. So many things changed for me this year. My relationships, my jobs, my living situation. You might have had a friend that you thought you would have for life, or a job where you were expecting to get promoted. But then things may not go the way we had planned. No matter how hard you try to avoid it and resist it, change will enter your life. So how do you embrace sudden changes? I found that in order to be okay with change, I had to learn how to live with uncertainty, because that's really what change creates. It creates uncertainty. How did I do that? Obviously, I'm still working on that, but one thing that I believe was so helpful for me was one word: meditation. There's this practice called the Don't Know Mind, and there's also a book on it. I won't go into the practice in this video, but I recommend you look it up. I will leave some links in the description. And if you're skeptical to meditation, which I found some people are, refer back to my first point in this video, which was try it. My last point on this list is you can. The American poet Maya Angelou said, "What you're supposed to do when you don't like a thing is change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Don't complain." I'm not disregarding any mental conditions that might affect a person's everyday life, but majority of the time, people are just lazy and unwilling to be responsible. Complaining is comforting to humans because it excuses us from taking responsibility. Saying things like, "I don't have time, I can't, it's difficult," fine. But don't expect things to change then, because change won't just happen. You need to make it happen. I remember talking to a former boss at a job and telling him that I wanted to grow in the company. Here's what he told me. "Lana, you know what my boss told me? No one gives a crap about you. And that is the same advice that I will give to you." It might sound pretty harsh, but what he meant was, if you want to grow in the company, then grow in the company. It's 100% up to you, and no one will do it for you. Taking full responsibility over your life is one of the most difficult things. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's something that needs to be worked on. Also, I do believe that responsibility and self-discipline kind of go hand in hand. So if you want to get some practical advice, I suggest you watch my self-discipline video. I will link it in my description. I talk about things like the 20-second rule, which a lot of people have actually messaged me saying that they have applied this rule to their lives and that it's been helping them. And that is really great. Anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share some of the things that you have learned throughout this year, and that way we can all take part of each other's life lessons. Thank you again. I will see you in my next one.